Welcome back to CBS This Morning. In their first U.S. television interview, two former Amazon employees say they were fired for their activism on behalf of Amazon warehouse workers. Amazon has faced growing questions about possible retaliation against employees who speak out about safety conditions amid the pandemic. On 60 Minutes Sunday, an Amazon senior vice president said the company has, quote, zero tolerance for retaliation. But the two longtime Amazon employees say that's exactly what ended their careers with the company.
Amazon's greatest fear is workers coming together, workers organizing, workers talking to each other, and workers speaking up together. That's why Emily and I were fired.
Maren Costa says she used to love working for Amazon, helping the e-commerce giant design everything from the homepage to physical stores. But last month, after 15 years with the company, she and fellow designer Emily Cunningham were fired after calling attention to working conditions at Amazon warehouses.
Do you personally feel like you were silenced or they attempted to silence you?
Absolutely. We were absolutely silenced.
The coronavirus has killed at least 4 Amazon warehouse employees and infected others.
We need Jeff Bezos to take action,
fueling protests across the country.
Warehouse workers reached out to us because of how unsafe they felt in warehouses and how afraid they felt, not only for their own health, but for their families and for the larger public as well.
And what was the reality you were hearing from the workers themselves?
Amazon's internal message to all of the frontline workers, the warehouse workers, they are heroes, and we're doing everything we can, and everything is just going swimmingly well. It wasn't going swimmingly for them at all.
Costa and Cunningham say the pandemic has exposed how Amazon treats its warehouse workers differently than it treats tech workers, especially those on the company's main campus.
When we found one case of COVID on the entire campus, the campus was shut down and everybody was sent home. When warehouse workers stay home for fear of the coronavirus, they just send more bodies in.
After the coronavirus hit, Costa and Cunningham circulated a petition to improve the lives of warehouse workers, asking for increased hazard pay and additional safety procedures.
I say listen to your workers. Listen to what they're saying.
Back in 2018, Costa and Cunningham had helped create the group Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. And they say Amazon warned them against publicly criticizing the company.
Today, I feel...
But it still surprised them when, on April 10th, after their group invited colleagues to a talk about warehouse worker safety, they got a call from management.
I got an invite from my director at 2:45 for a 3 o'clock meeting, and I thought that was unusual, but at that time, about 3 o'clock, I noticed I didn't have access to the network anymore. And then about an hour later, I got a call from an HR representative who basically told me that I had violated multiple policies and that I was terminated effective immediately.
They say they were told they'd violated internal policies, among them one that prohibits soliciting donations from fellow employees.
My son was actually in the adjoining room when the call came in, and so he just happened to hear the whole thing.
You were fired in a Zoom call like this?
That's correct. I took the call and it was very brief. My 15 years at Amazon was ended in about a 30-second, literally a 30-second phone call.
Last week, 9 U.S. senators wrote a letter to Amazon raising the question of retaliation for whistleblowing, specifically naming Costa and Cunningham. On 60 Minutes Sunday, Amazon head of operations Dave Clark said the company does not strike back at its own employees.
Well, I can tell you we have a zero tolerance policy for retaliating against people or for any number of issues. I've been here 21 years and I've never seen anybody fired for complaining or raising a concern.
What would you say to somebody who's been following your story and they think, look, a company is like a family. You broke the trust.
We know the importance of pilots being able to speak up, of Boeing engineers, of nurses speaking up on behalf of their patients. And if workers are not able to speak up, it's a disaster, not only for those workers or their patients or customers, but for the larger public as well.
And of course, we did ask Amazon for an interview. The company declined, but in a statement, the company said, quote, "We terminated these employees not for talking publicly about working conditions or safety, but for repeatedly violating internal policies." As for the safety of the workers, Amazon says it now is spending $800 million on safety measures And on top of that, the company identifies workers who come in contact with a sick colleague and sends those workers into quarantine with pay. I think the bigger question here, Gail and Anthony, is when we deem a worker essential, what does that mean in terms of pay and protections? That's a question Amazon has to answer, and many other companies across the country have to answer. And it's going to continue as a conversation long after these employees clean out their offices at Amazon. Gail.
Yeah, both of those women, I think Tony raised some very troubling issues. I only hope that Amazon reconsiders its position about not giving an interview. I don't think a statement really suffices based on what they raised. Also coming on the heels of the 60 Minutes piece where they did have an executive talk. I hope they'll reconsider their offer to you, that they will take you up on your offer rather. Anthony?
Yeah, no, and I mean, to Tony's point, I think this is something every company is going to have to confront as people start going back to work. What are actually safe conditions, at least for the next year? It's a huge obstacle to getting the economy back on its feet.